So, every so often on the show, I get a guest, and I sort of think, well, wow, did that really happen when you've spoken to them? Now, about 18 months or so ago, Marion and I, on the Recovery Show, we interviewed a chap called Billy Sutty Sutton, who originally from Birmingham, moved to Brixham eventually, but bit of a what's the word? Colourful life between that time. And he's been on the show 2 or 3 times, and we're happy to have him back today. Sutty, welcome back to Riviera FM.
And welcome to you, David, and to all your marvellous listeners, wishing them a very happy and safe Christmas and a very safe New Year with the sadness which has gone on.
Indeed, indeed. Now, Sutty, first of all, a quick recap of what it was all about. So we read in the newspaper, Marion sent me a newspaper cutting about this chap who was living in the Midlands, a very well-respected chap amongst the local sporting community and what have you, but also, and I'm sure you won't mind me saying this, a chronic alcohol problem, which
that is
obviously...
correct, David.
Yeah, now obviously you overcame that and then went on to, well, as you do, flying out to Miami to help working with the police on crack cocaine raids. So a very brief resume. How did that all come about then?
Well, what happened originally, 79, the alcoholism really chronically affected me. I was found after 3 days in a flour warehouse on New Street Station by the late great television presenter Alan Towers at BBC Midlands Today, one of my dearest friends. He found me on the 3rd night. I'd been there 3 days, covered in mice and 14 bottles of empty vodka. And Towersy gave me the reality check. All the years of emotions of a mother begging me to stop drinking when I abused that love from a mother with the alcoholism problem. Towersy gave me a reality check, told me I was dying, told me I got to get bottled back in my life, and he cleaned me up, and him and Nick Owen, who you know was the former big television presenter with Ann Diamond, Nick and I worked together at Radio Birmingham. I covered the non-league for many years, and a dear friend of mine who was Ed of Pebblemill, who's still a dear friend today, Jim Donegan and his family, who are based in Birmingham, they gave me the opportunity to do the non-league, David.
Right, okay. Now, from that, of course, once you'd got yourself sobered up, and I will slot in now, this will be your 41st sober Christmas.
My 41st Christmas as a winner, as a recovering alcoholic, David.
That is absolutely marvellous. Now, obviously, we've discussed this on the recovery shows in the past. Now, the thing is, what happened next was after, through various circumstances that are a bit long to go into, you found yourself in Miami, working with the police, thanks to your links with the Birmingham police.
Well, yeah, what happened, the Birmingham police had no idea what crack cocaine was. Val, my former wife, and I was in Corfu the year before, and we met a former Vietnam American cop called Chuck Wolfenstein and his wife Ada. They lived in New Jersey, and we flew out there, and they invited us in '86 of the May to go back, David. Well, what happened, I was chairman of a major football club, Solihull. I was on crime and prevention panels, radio, county FA, sports councils, all these committees giving my time and money to, where Val and the family were proud of me 6 years sober, but I was people-pleasing, David, to other people, and eventually Val had had enough, and she gave me the goodbye treatment, and I was back. I was back at my mother's, and in the conversation with Chuck in New York, I said, Val and me had partied, there was no point in me coming across on my own, and I said, what's going on in the States? Because as you know, they're more forward than we'll ever be, David. And he said, have you heard about crack cocaine? I said, no. and he said, well, it's destroying communities in Miami. The Cubans and Colombians and black gangs are destroying people's lives. I said, that's the challenge. He said, what are you talking about, Sutty? I said, what's hitting you now will eventually hit us. I need to get to Miami through the endorsements of the Miami police, get the information, bring it back to the UK, forewarn Europe and the UK about the dangers of crack. I went to see senior commanders at the Westmoreland Police, Les Sharp and Ron Broom, and I said, crack cocaine. They said, we don't know what you're talking about. And I emphasised what was happening in Miami. I said, I need to meet the chief of police. They had no connections with any American police departments. And what happened, they endorsed a portfolio to Clarence Dixon, chief of the Miami Police, who, by the way, was the first black chief of police in America.
Right, okay. Now, so obviously you went to Miami. Now, the whole point of this interview is that ages and ages ago, you came onto the show with your, and I love this, your film directors and producers, because a film has actually been made of your life here and in America. Now, the whole thing was that was supposed to be released, this year, towards the beginning of this year, but obviously, due to the COVID problem, it hasn't happened. So what is the story on the film at the moment? Obviously, the film tells of your life in the Midlands and then all of the dramas you faced in Miami. So what's happening with the film at the moment?
Well, obviously, the date of the premiere was at the Talio in Birmingham, May the 6th. But with the sadness which has gone on, with everything in lockdown, David, but what's happened, Luke Walker, who plays the young Billy Sutton in the film, him and Ash, they have worked tirelessly to tidy up and fine-tune the film. They have now completed that, David. We're going with a new date in Birmingham with a dear friend of mine, Brett Gardner, who controls and manages the big conference centre at the Westmoreland Police Ground, the Talio in Birmingham, for March next year. But I think we got to be safe. We'll mostly go for a May date. But what has happened, it's give us, with the COVID epidemic, it's give Ash and Luke and Ryan more time to fine-tune the film. And what's happening, my connection with the great Gary Stretch, who's like my adopted son over a lifetime, next weekend he will get the final completion of the film, and also Jim Donegan, who's former head of Pebblemill, he's going to be endorsed the film for their professional opinions, what they think about it, David.
That's brilliant. Because, of course, Gary Stretch, of course, I actually interviewed him on my movie show a while back. Gary Stretch, the ex-boxer turned actor now living in LA. And as you say, you and Gary go back a long, long way. So it's great that you've got all of these people behind you. So the other thing, of course, coming onto this is the fact that, from the film, came the website. Now, I did do interviews with Matt and Josh Proctor a couple of months ago about the website. So you've now got your official Billy Sutton website out as well. That's
correct. I mean, the Proctor family, the last 2 years, David, my life's been turned round with the involvement many, many months with the film. And since early part of the year, by pure accident, I met the lovely Proctor family in Brixham at Charles' Restaurant, friends of mine, Sean and Sarah Bergshone, and I was having a cup of tea there with little Miami, and they had a lovely dog, little Maxie. We got talking, and their lovely son Josh and Matt said we could make you a massive website to promote the film. And I thought it was a wonderful gesture. And over the months, David, I had the setback in February with the cancer, as you know, and that minor stroke I had in August. But the wonderful friendship this family have given to me is nothing short of outstanding. And I don't want to get emotional, but I can only endorse their friendship they've shown to me in Little Miami. It's been very, very important at this stage in my life, David.
I think that's wonderful. Now, of course, the other thing that's happened as well to do with the film, and you've actually been interviewed for a podcast, which is coming out next Tuesday. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Sean Atwood, as anybody knows, is one of the major players in Europe. He's based in Guildford, Surrey. And he'd gone on the website, contacted Matt and Josh, and said he'd like to do an interview with me. He thought it was an amazing story. Because he interviews ex-gangsters, celebrities and such. Anyway, lovely Proctor families took me all the way to Guildford. We had to stay Saturday and Sunday, and Sean interviewed me for 2 hours on the Sunday night at his studio in Guildford. That will come out on Monday the 21st, podcast YouTube at 6 o'clock. It's going to be what you've done for me in this part of the world, and Ben Ellis, who's interviewing next week with Switch in Birmingham. You two, dear friends, are now joined by Sean Atwood, which is going to put me worldwide by the end of this year. And the important thing is this, David. You know all the interviews I've kindly done with you and Marion. I've always emphasised what the alcoholic goes through is tragic. But more importantly, David, it's the sadness and the emotions on a family, what they go through. And through this interview with you, you're marvellously doing before Christmas, and Ben next week for Birmingham, and Sean on the Monday, is giving hope through the film, through the website, through the interviews, is to give hope to all families of alcoholics. And sadly, David, you're aware, like I am, and others, that with COVID, it's created thousands of more alcoholics and people with mental disorders.
Yeah, that is very, very true indeed. And what a great way to finish the interview. Sutty, as always, it has been an absolute pleasure to chat to you, mate.
Can I just say something to you, David? The one thing in my life, I've had to be honest with myself, I've got a routine every morning now, picking up Steve, who you know, one of my closest friends. We drive to Peyton on the front, and Mick there with his dad Dick, they got the proper coffee house, and wind or rain, he's open at 7 o'clock, and there's a small group of us who get there, and it's kept me focused, David.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know how important routines can be.
You know, and I think for anybody coming up to my stage in my life towards 80, you know, it's not the end of the world. It's like my dear great friend, Misha Paris, says to me many years ago, Sutty, if you stick around long enough, you'll come back into fashion. Well, to come back into fashion like the last 2 years, and with friends like you, it's been a wonderful journey for me. And I can only say to you, once again, David, God bless you, Marion, everybody involved at Riviera, and all your listeners. God bless you all for your support.
Oh, Sutty, thank you very, very much indeed. That's wonderful.